Hello, everybody. Welcome to Profiling Evil by Mike King. I'm here with Chris McDonough, and today we're here with Lauren Scharf as well. Lauren, welcome.
Hi, good morning.
It's really good to see you. Chris, how you doing this morning?
Good, Michael. Good to see you. Hi, Lauren, again.
Hi.
We just sent out, Lauren just sent out a tweet and a Facebook notification that we're live. We decided at the last minute that we had a couple of things that we wanted to talk about, but we actually have been planning on talking today about the Suzanne Morphew missing persons case, and today particularly because it's a pretty significant day. Chris, why don't you dig into that?
Yep, as everybody knows, today is Barry and Suzanne's anniversary. This is a very emotional day for a lot of people. Obviously, the family, the girls, the Mormon family, the Morphew family. I mean, just everybody. This is it impacts the community because this young lady is still missing, and we're hoping that today we'll be able to kick something loose, and we'll see. Yep.
Yes, I mean, 26th anniversary. This show isn't about exploiting the anniversary today. This is about the fact that oftentimes these are periods of time where maybe a sense of dignity and goodness comes across people that are involved in cases like this, whether it is the unknown boogeyman perpetrator or someone closer to Suzanne. You would hope that this pulls a little bit at the heartstrings, and it's time for this family to get some closure and find out where their mother and wife and family member is. It's also kind of an interesting day because it could be the kind of day that law enforcement might want to make announcements or at least speak to the event because, again, it is so significant. And in the criminal investigation process, it's a day that we really like to lean upon. Lauren, how do you look at this from the media standpoint when a day like this comes up?
I mean, we tried to get, the person involved, like Barry, maybe to come forward and talk about just who Suzanne is as a mother, as a wife, just to, keep folks remembering her and to also make sure that, that tips are out there or that tips could be called in about Suzanne whenever there's an anniversary, such as, oh, she's been gone for 3 months. Oh, she's been gone for 2 months and things like that. So, I mean, I wish, and I know that you guys have asked Barry to come forward to talk. I mean, it doesn't have to be about the investigation. It can be just about Suzanne and about who she is and, that obviously they miss her every second of every day. And just to keep, Suzanne on many people's minds right now.
Yeah, Chris, what's your opinion here? And folks, welcome everybody that's jumping in. No, we don't have a chance today to announce that Suzanne's been located. We're taking advantage of this being the 26th anniversary for Suzanne, and these are really significant days when we try to find missing people or solve unsolved crimes. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, no, so we extended an opportunity, for Barry, and the invitation still stands to either reach out to Lauren and, connect with her right there locally, or connect with Mike and myself. Our intent here is really just to talk about your wife. And, this is a very important day. I mean, and I know there's a lot of people that are hoping and praying and keeping the faith that, she's alive somewhere. So we thought, Mike and I thought with Lauren, we would do this live broadcast here to kind of continue to raise that awareness that she's still out there. And so hopefully this will help, Mike.
And Lauren, I mean, already we just we didn't give anyone any pre-notice. We just went live, but it looks like we have about 150 people already that have joined in this the last minute or two, even as far away as Perth, Australia. So it's really, really good to have our friends in Australia who are Tat Von. Thanks so much for being with us. And it's tomorrow night. You're getting ready to go to bed. So it's really great to have you here. But yeah, Lauren, catch us up on what you've been doing the last week.
Yeah, so I mean, I was kind of patiently waiting to see if Barry Morphew would talk with you guys or would talk with me. I mean, I've been to his house, just left a note to, just if you want to talk with me, great. I'm just wondering, like, what is going on with the silence as far as I didn't know. I mean, I've covered a lot of missing people cases, excuse me. And I know you guys have too. Just wondering, have you ever seen any, the family be so quiet in a missing persons case?
Yeah, Chris.
As Mike and I both pause, right? No, I mean, this is a mystery. I mean, it's, there's a feeling in investigative techniques that they call it consciousness of guilt, right? You avoid, the limelight, et cetera. We've heard different things that Ellie has come out and said, hey, to the family, don't go in front of the media, kind of stay back, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's almost counterintuitive to a missing persons case. Everybody, in my experience, including being a case agent on some very high profile missing persons, the first thing you want to do is sit down with the family and say, keep your loved member in the media as much as possible. Because, I mean, Elizabeth Smart is a perfect example of that. And Mike can talk to that. So yeah, to see the silence here, it's deafening. And it's their anniversary today. And this is one of the reasons why we are going to keep her in the forefront. And Lauren, you have been diligent at your reporting. You're just have been amazing at keeping this moving.
Thanks.
So,
I know. I mean, last Friday there was a couple of reports of female bodies, and a lot of people were curious as to, is that Suzanne? I found out that both of them were not Suzanne. One lady was 22, and the other lady, I'm not exactly sure how old she was, but she died by suicide in a lake. And people were curious as to, obviously when a missing person and there's a body, they want to see if that's connected. But still, both those women were not Suzanne Morphew. I did want to talk to you guys about, I did reach out to the Chaffee County Search and Rescue, the North Department, and their public information officer. They told me that they've had 4 different searches for Suzanne since her disappearance. And the last date of the search was, or the last time they ever searched was June 5th. So that's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Hey, Lauren, before we talk about that, I want to back up because Betty Smith threw a question out that I thought was really interesting. And Betty, thank you. With all due respect, she says, why should Barry talk to anybody? He's the number one suspect, probably advised by legal counsel not to say anything. We have to agree with you. Why would he talk? And I just flip that over and I'll say, Chris and Lauren, why wouldn't he talk?
I mean, the fact that his wife is still missing, I think that, I mean, if someone that I loved was missing, I would be, talking to everyone and anyone to help find her. As far as I am not sure if I haven't found that he has legal counsel as far as an attorney yet. I haven't found that out yet. I've tried. I I'm trying to think of, I'm pretty, I mean, maybe law enforcement, told him not to speak, but also, you have to think you're still not, the point of the matter is Suzanne's still missing. She's still not around. And, in his first plea on, his pre-taped, video of himself, he talked about, I will do anything to get her back. And if you're gonna say that, wouldn't you want to talk about her every single day? I know people grieve in different ways, but to not publicly talk to reporters, or to not publicly, even if it's just a Facebook video of yourself holding the camera talking about Suzanne, that would be great. And then, not even a single statement. Even just write something up and send it to the media. That would be great, to have just even a quote to, talk about, we're thinking of her every single day. We miss her. This was the type of mother she was or is, and that she's, a fantastic wife, things like that, just keeps her in the minds of people, so that if maybe they saw something strange, they could call it in, or maybe they saw her, just to bring in tips to help law enforcement, and to also put pressure on law enforcement to solve the case also.
That is a great point, Lauren, because what the family's responsibility is, obviously, is to take care of their own emotional, mental welfare inside themselves, right? And the entire family environment. Mike and I have been talking. Remember, we say, don't leave the house yet. You can't leave the house yet, okay? However, the family's responsibility, and law enforcement knows this. We go to training for this, okay? When you have a missing person, the longer it goes, okay, the leads start doing this, okay? So what we ask the family, guys, get in front of the media. We need information. These crimes are solved by citizens, okay, outside of the forensics and the investigative gumshoe work, right? But it's the citizens who say, hey, I think, and they call that tip. And if you look at the very first part of this investigation, how quickly it went, you had the bicycle. What did they do? People they call in 600 clues, okay? Well, at some point, those 600 clues are going to become 500 clues, 400 clues, 3, and then they're going to get to 0, okay? The longer this takes. So what the family does in an investigative dynamic is to keep her, what you're doing and what we're doing here today, is to keep her on the forefront. And so you have these kind of plateau events like this anniversary, and say, hey, it's your anniversary. Okay. It's your anniversary. Okay. You've been married to this young lady for a very long time. Okay. Where is she? Help us so we can help you. Because this is an impact on a lot of people. And the investigators are feeling it too. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I've covered cases where investigators have told us, because we put this out in the media, we got this case solved. Yeah. Because of tips from the community, we got this case solved. And so I think, Suzanne's still missing. What does it hurt for him or the daughters or even Suzanne's side of the family to come talk? Because there comes to be a point where they feel like, obviously it's being too slow. The investigation's taking too long. They could come out and be try to stir up the public and be like, hey, help us find my wife, find my sister, find my mom, and that could bring in tips that, might break the case and, help law enforcement find Suzanne.
Yeah. So case in point, Lauren, we are wondering that very question ourselves. Last week or 10 days ago, whenever we spoke last, one of the things we did is we asked a plea of those who were watching to reach out to you. This is just a simple example and test. Did people reach out to you? And if so, then doesn't that cast again the question, hey, if you know something, make sure you're contacting the police, because that really does need to happen. And the investigators really do need to hear from people.
Yeah, I mean, I continue whenever I talk publicly about Suzanne Morphew, I still get messages sent to my Facebook and Twitter accounts as far as like, oh, I was in that area this day and I saw this, or, I am a family friend of Suzanne's and I know this about the case, or I know I'm a friend of Barry's and I know this. So people are, messaging me and giving me information, which is great. I always ask them, have you told law enforcement about this? If it's something credible, if it's something I think could lead to more tips, if they, it could lead the investigators to look into things like that. I did want to talk about, I did speak with a neighbor of Morphew's, of the property off of Puma Path. Do you want me to go into what this person told me?
Before you do, I just want to just remind folks what we're talking about. We're talking about Suzanne Morphew. Today is the 26th wedding anniversary for Suzanne and Barry. And again, this isn't a broadcast to somehow cast any blame or dark shadows on anyone. This is a chance to take advantage of something really important that happens in law enforcement, and that is anniversary dates are times when perhaps someone who might have involvement in the case reflects on things, thinks, hey, it's time to maybe send a tip in myself about where this, if she is deceased at this point, where this person's body is, or to say, here's what we know, and help try to bring some closure to this family. A really important part. We're with Lauren Scharf from FOX21, and I've got Chris McDonough here. So yeah, I'll let you take it up again from there. And thanks everybody for joining. And gosh, the numbers are growing rapidly. We're almost at 500 of you. Marina, thanks for joining up. And folks, take advantage of those super chats, because we're gonna let you ask Lauren some questions, and we'll certainly answer your questions along the way as well. So anyway, take it back up.
Chris,
okay,
do you want
so
to say
Lauren,
something?
yeah, just before you start there, real fast. Okay, it's because I'm looking at some of the comments coming in here. Okay, this is not a disparaging day in relationship to Barry. Okay, everybody's right. Everybody has the right to sit back and he not say anything. Okay. But let me ask you this. If you go missing, is your family member on your anniversary going to sit back and just let it go away? I'm here to tell you, if that happens, if I go missing and my wife is not out in front of the media with you, Lauren, then you know what? It is what it is. Don't leave the house. So now this, even as an investigator, has got me thinking, what's in that house? Even further than what Mike and I were a couple of weeks ago. So let's start there. Do you have any more additional info on how that house is doing?
Yeah, so I spoke with a neighbor to where the Morphews live, and she told me that she didn't, ask Barry a lot of questions about the investigation. She's just wanting to show support. She didn't obviously want to say her name. She told me that, she's seen Barry cry, which leads to the girls crying. She did tell me that she has been inside the Morphew home since the investigators left, and she said nothing seemed different. She said, although she's only been on the first floors, she mentioned that after investigators handed over the house back to the Morphews, there was, quote, cleaning and work to do and to put things back where they go, is what she said in quotes.
What part of the house? Do you know? Do we know?
So that's the first level. So that's like the living room, the kitchen area, that area of the house.
Okay.
She mentioned that Barry would help out neighbors a lot when they, needed help with anything. He's a great neighbor. Their community is putting up a gate on the private road soon. She mentioned about seeing a lot of hitchhikers, hikers, bikers, and visitors. She specifically told me that during COVID, there's been a lot more people around just because, you're outside. There's not much to do in town because things are closed. But she said since this investigation, there's been, it's been quieting down more. So, she said that when she actually did speak with the girls the morning on Mother's Day, and they weren't worried about their mom that morning. She said, I asked about cell service. As far as when I go out there, there's no cell service, but I have Verizon, so I'm not sure, if they have a certain type of company that they have to go with to have cell service. And she said, yeah, it's really bad service. You can still send text messages through, though, in the house. She talked about, I was asking her if she was ever worried about, kids or visitors playing outside. Did she ever feel, unsafe? And she said, I never felt unsafe. Her only worry was wildlife, animals. But that's never been an issue, she said. She talked about, I asked her about the creek nearby to see if it's really loud. And she said she can't hear it by her house. And she said, and then I asked about the Morphew house. I was like, can you hear the creek near the, when you're at the Morphew's house? And she said very faintly, but it's still, you don't have to yell or talk louder when you're having a conversation outside. I asked her about security cameras. I asked her about, the closest rental properties near the Morphew house, if those security cameras were working at the time of Suzanne's disappearance. And she said they were not. She said the batteries died. As far as, when I asked her about, yeah. And I asked her, what about the Morphew's security cameras, and she didn't know. She didn't know if those were working or not. And when I was there, wanting to talk to Barry, there's security cameras on every angle. It was like every angle of the home. As soon as you walk down the driveway, there's a security camera, and then when you turn to knock on the door, like the front door, there's another security camera focusing on the front door area. I asked her, why hasn't Barry talked? And she doesn't know why. She does know that Barry and Barry's family was offered to stay in the rental property nearby the house, the closest rental properties nearby the house, during the when their house was under investigation.
Is that the first time? The first search warrant?
Yes, yeah.
And that's not uncommon, by the way. There's typically a member of the investigative team that if it's something that this type of volume, where you're going to be in that home for a long time, to ask the family, they'll actually go and try to make those arrangements.
For them.
In conjunction with the family,
Okay.
to make sure that they're comfortable, because obviously that early on in the investigation, there's still a lot of questions that haven't been answered. So by all means, Ellie is going to help the family. I mean, and so that doesn't surprise us to hear that.
Yeah.
That's
hey,
good.
folks, let me pause this for just a moment and maybe field a couple of these questions that are coming in. So between the three of us, maybe we can answer this. And Miss Sophia, it's great to see you. Thanks for congratulating us on reaching 10,000 subscribers, and thanks to all of you. And I see some discussion going on, Cinnamon Hot, about becoming a member. We absolutely want that. So please take advantage of those. But I saw one particular question, and I'm trying to find who asked that question, but they're saying, law enforcement, at one point, somebody thought that law enforcement had excluded Barry as a suspect in the case. Lauren, we talked about that a little bit last time. Maybe you could just share how you've kind of chased that. And then And then Chris, if you would, right after that, let's go after this one, which I thought was kind of interesting about, is it possible that she could have gone underground because of abusive relationships or anything else? And maybe just what law enforcement would really do if I think they would find out, and what they would say about something, and if they'd keep investigating if that were a question. So Laurie Olszewski, thanks so much for that. I hope I said your name right. So Laurie, why don't you take that?
So I think a lot of people, I think they might have seen this investigation discovery video that they published, and it was inaccurate. I reached out as soon as I saw it. They kind of had written that Barry had no involvement, and from what the Chaffee County Sheriffs has told us, that they haven't eliminated anyone from suspicion. They've also said that they can't discount any scenario, and this is coming straight from Sheriff John Speasy. And so when I saw that video and that them saying that Barry had no involvement, I was confused. Maybe maybe they have an inside scoop of this, and I was really confused about this. So that's why I reached out to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation spokesperson, because Chaffee County doesn't have a PIO, and so they're kind of being their spokesperson. And she said immediately, we had no involvement in the production of the investigation discovery video, and that she referred me back to the last statement from the sheriff, which said there has been no one eliminated from suspicion. So they haven't eliminated any suspects, is what he's getting at. And so I put that on Twitter and Facebook about it, and then they deleted the video, completely deleted it, didn't have a retraction, didn't even say why they deleted it. I reached out to them, the producers of that video. They never got back to me. And then a couple days later, they put up a new video that was much shorter, and they deleted that part about Barry having no involvement. And then, so they must have talked to CBI or just saw, my tweets or Facebook about it. So to answer any questions about the if there's been any suspects eliminated, there has not been any suspects eliminated.
That's awesome. And Chris, I'm going to just answer your question quickly, because I'd like you to answer Matt Block's question about luminol and the use of luminol and what the purposes are of that. But folks, if law enforcement were aware of Suzanne fleeing for protective custody somewhere, they wouldn't continue to be investigating her or encouraging the public to give them tips. That's my opinion. I don't know what your thoughts are, Chris, on that, but as you answer the question on luminol, that I just wanted to weigh in on that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree on the DV stuff, like domestic violence stuff. So luminol, so there's a couple of things. So what luminol does is it's a chemical, and you can spray it into a particular environment, and then you use what they call an alternate light source, or an ALS. An ALS is basically, it's like a laser of some sort. It's like a blue light. You wear these special glasses, and after you spray this into a room, it'll attach to the chemistry within inside of the blood, tissue, that type of stuff. Anything that deals with the human system, in terms of on a biological aspect. So, and then what it does is it glows. Right? And so you will see the criminalists, they will get swabs, and they'll typically, they'll wet them up, and, they'll swab it. They'll photograph it first, they'll measure it, they'll, document it, and then they'll swab it. and then they'll take a secondary overall photograph of it. So luminol is a very effective tool. It does have some positives and some negatives, but once that swab is done, it is sent to the lab. And so that's why this case here has been critical. There's a lot of forensic stuff. I think Mike and I, agree that it's coming down the pipe, the pipeline here, at some point, because it's sitting up at CBI at the crime lab up there. And those are really, really well experienced people. I mean, evident of the fact you guys have had some pretty high profile capers up there, and these folks need to know. So it's critical for our viewers to go back to the video that Mike did on the victim continuum. Okay. And then we have to ask us, about that. And that's why we haven't been able to leave the house yet. And quite frankly, that's probably why, to your point, Lauren, has anybody been eliminated? CBI hasn't left the house yet. And go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, well, and before we step off of this, folks, this is a crime scene image of luminol being used to try to find blood evidence in a bathtub, and anyone who's ever worked law enforcement or worked with the CSI guys will tell you that if you ever want to really creep yourselves out, just spray a little luminol in your hotel room and turn out the lights, and you'll never sleep again.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to the house for a second then. Lauren, we've got the bottom floor. What do we know about the top floor, if anything?
Yeah, so this neighbor I spoke with, she has never gone up to the second floor, and when she went a few days ago, didn't go up to the top floor. So we don't know. Yeah. Okay,
so things had to be put back in order.
Yes.
In the house. What did that mean? What did that mean to you?
Obviously, to me, I mean, something had to have happened for them to go back twice. I mean, to go back to the home, for investigators to ask for a second search warrant, that's huge. I think something major happened in that home. As to who and, who was involved, I don't know. I do have, some people have reached out to me asking about a magic marker use inside the home to mark evidence. Could you guys talk more about, what investigators use to mark up evidence, and like what type of state that maybe the investigators would have left the home as soon as the second or first search warrant was finished?
Mike, you want me to take that, or what are your thoughts?
That would be great. Tracy Harvey, thanks for joining up with us. Alice No Wonderland, thank you for joining up with us, and all of you who are paying attention today. We're up to almost 750 folks now. It's really great to see you. Please take advantage of the super chats and please pour the questions in, because Lauren is willing to answer a few questions as we go along. We're talking about Suzanne Morphew and the fact that it's the 26th anniversary for their wedding. And today, because it's the 26th anniversary, is a special day in which we hope that anyone who might have involvement in the case will feel a bit of compassion and responsibility to help bring this woman home. We're talking with Lauren Scharf of FOX21. I've got Chris McDonough with me, and we're just so grateful that all of you are jumping on board with us. Thanks for helping us grow as a channel, and for helping us and supporting us with memberships and other things. It helps us provide some great quality content to you. And a quick shout out to Circa 3 for helping us out.
Yep. So let's unpack this in terms of from an investigative evidence collection process. Okay. So the first thing, obviously, when I hear and when Mike hears, and probably anybody else that's ever been in this industry for a long time, and I've been in this game since 1982. So it's a couple of weekends. Okay. So that said, when I hear ideas like you just said there about markers and that type of stuff inside the house, typically, whenever a marker is used, usually it's a Sharpie or, a circle of some sort, or a an L bar where they do an L, that is usually indicative of some type of biological physical evidence. Okay, and what I mean by that is this: that is old school CSI. Okay, today, they have when you circle stuff back in the day. Okay, that was kind of the rule. Okay, so I think about that guy, that CSI that we saw walking out into the house with the bag. Okay, and remember, Mike and I commented on him. This guy's an old salt. You can tell he's played the game before. And then we see the gal walking out with the bottle, the squirt bottle. Okay, so what they do is they go in, they process the scene, maybe with a luminol, maybe with an alternate light source of some sort. And if they see something, okay, again, the first thing they're going to try to do is photograph it. Okay. Well, the only way you can get that photograph to be presentable in court is you have to identify it in a certain way. So one way to do that is you circle the item that you're looking at, okay, with a marker, okay, and then you take a ruler. It's usually an L slide type of ruler that has dimensions on it. And then you do a photograph with the L ruler up against the item. And it could be a wall, could be, it could be a kitchen table. I mean, we don't know, right? But there you go. This guy right here, he's old school. This guy's been around, to where back in the day, the training was, hey, if you see some physical evidence, put a circle around it, tag it and bag it. Okay, so that's what we say. Okay, so they put the ruler up there, boom, another photo, and now you have an orientation photo, and now you have an orientation as to what type of evidence that could be. It could be anything. Okay, it could be anything. It could be cast off. It could be, fluid from, for DNA purposes later on. But the fact that the neighbors or the fact that somebody has said that, okay, is also, it's critical. It could also be for elimination, by the way, okay, meaning, they want to eliminate that something happened. Okay? So let's always keep that in mind. I mean, to our viewers who are saying, hey, we're not going to throw Barry under the bus. We totally agree with you. We're going right down the middle here, okay? But we haven't left the house yet. In fact, even this information that we're hearing is putting us back in the house for a moment, okay? Because that's critical. Mike, Lauren, thoughts?
No, I'm right in sync with you. And what's really significant to me, Lauren, is if what your witness told you is accurate, there is a lot of interesting things in the house that law enforcement is focusing on. Some of what may just be the fact that the house was disturbed and things were turned over as they looked for evidence that is upsetting to the family and them not wanting to be there. But the message that I'm hearing loud and clear is there's a batch of evidence in that home that they've taken advantage of and that they're trying to process, and that is going to become really significant as this case rolls forward. And that's no small thing.
Can you go back to that photo that you showed of an investigator holding a bag? Can you
Sure.
talk about, as far as, he's pinching it, and that there's it looks to be a brown paper bag with something inside that paper bag. And then that paper bag is then inserted into a Ziploc bag, and he's pinching it. So whatever is that in that bag doesn't seem to be that heavy, because he's holding it with one hand, right? Mm-hmm. Is that something that when you do find a piece of evidence that you always have to put it in a paper bag and then put it in like a Ziploc bag like that? Because obviously whoever took this photo had a really, really big lens to get that close photo. I mean, is that something you would typically see from investigators taking evidence from a home?
Well, not to throw a wet blanket on your thought process here, that bag also could be holding the evidence bags. Okay, meaning the
Oh,
Ziploc, the evidence, those could just be evidence bag inside the Ziploc bag. Okay,
gotcha.
first thing. But the
Yeah,
other
and
one,
that's really,
go ahead.
Lauren, a really important thing to think about too is that you cannot risk a piece of evidence being contaminated by another piece of evidence. So
Yeah.
each item is going to be sealed into a container in a space, perhaps even in a vial or something else, to keep that pristine so that there's no chance of having that cross contamination occur. So the bag actually, like Chris is saying, may actually hold several pieces of evidence, but each of those are going to be very carefully collected and secured individually before they're ever put into a cumulative location like that bag.
Yeah. So we have a couple of possibilities there, to Mike's point. It could just be, evidence bags inside of a Ziploc that they take into the house. It could be evidence that they've sealed, right? And they put seals on it, and they put their ID number, they put the date it was collected, and they put the time that it was collected. And then they seal them up, and he could be carrying those out. So those are two possibilities. But the other picture, do we have the other picture, guys, of the other gal?
No, we don't. But
Okay.
if you go back and look at the previous video, you'll see the other photo. I think Chris is teeing up right now.
Yeah, that other photo is the evidence tech coming out with the squirt bottle, and then she's got a couple of envelopes. She's holding two envelopes. Okay, those are typically swabs. Okay, in that type of container. Okay, and there's a little box that they come in. You use it, you put it in the box, date it, time it, ID, etc., then slip it into that type of envelope. So she's walking out of that house with the squirt bottle, which could be water for her swabs or luminol. Okay, that's probably going to be one of the two possibilities there. Okay, and once she's holding that in her left hand, the two envelopes. Okay, that would be consistent with the information that you're hearing about the markers on the wall. Okay, those two events could correlate to each other. We're not saying they do, but it would be consistent with the type of picture of somebody walking out holding the type of item that you see there, and what we're hearing here today.
Yeah, and I want to just slip in something really quick because I don't want to lose it in the chat window before it disappears. I want to acknowledge two really important comments that are on there. One from One Wild Ride: Barry is innocent. Show me proof. And then from Laura Patterson: why do you all want to assume the girls are not mourning? I would just like to make it very clear that this show isn't about casting blame on anybody. And this today especially is about bringing an awareness back and keeping Suzanne in the picture so that if someone does know something, they step forward and they show a little compassion today and share the information. But we have to talk about possibilities and probabilities, and that's what we explore. And we'll let you all decide whether someone's responsible or not, and we're going to wait for the courts to make those final decisions and see what the police do. But thanks. I want to really acknowledge that, because if it's coming across that we're casting a stone one way or another, we're not. Now, if it's coming across, and hopefully is coming across very clearly, that there are some things that are needing to be answered, and they keep taking us back to the home, and they take us back to personal relationships and other kinds of things, that's a reality, and they're bona fide questions. But we certainly want to acknowledge those comments, because you are spot on. This is not about an indictment on anybody. It's about exploring evidence and then trying to create some theories.
Yep.
I do have a question as far as obviously investigators have gone back to the home, in July, but also, assuming that the home is likely a crime scene, right? And Suzanne has not been located. How likely is it that a crime would have taken place in the home, Suzanne taken from the home, and that the bike potentially cleaned up to avoid detection that a crime even took place in the home, and that the abductors would stage a bike scene up the road. Is this a typical an abduction scenario that you guys have ever, ever experienced in your time in law enforcement?
So staging is seen in a lot of crime scenes, Lauren, and so you have to continually weigh the evidence, and that's why it's just so dang important. And we hope people will go back and look at our video that we did on the 5 forms of evidence. It is absolutely imperative as we look at things that we don't develop a theory based on only one form of evidence alone. Whether it's eyewitness statement, the woman who says, I think she must have been out for a ride because that's what she does from time to time, or somebody else who finds the bike and says, hey, the bike's here, so that means this happened. Each of those can take us down a rabbit hole that is unproductive. We have to look at this case in totality, and then we'll see all these possibilities start to fall apart and sift through, and think about the gold panner, that's sitting on the side of the stream. They're collecting lots of rocks in that little gold pan, and as they shake it back and forth, slowly the little gold nuggets appear, and that's what this is all about, is examining all the possibilities, letting things filter down through, and coming up with the probabilities. And the probabilities, when they're supported by other forms of evidence, usually are the truth.
Yeah, and just to dovetail into what Mike is talking about as well, that we have 2 searches in the home. Okay, right? I mean, we have the first search of the house, and by the way, that could have been either consensual or it could have been by a warrant. If it was by a warrant,
it was by a warrant. It was sealed.
So that means, what happens whenever these things start to ramp up pretty quickly is the investigators always want to err on the side of caution. Okay, so they create an affidavit of probable cause, go before a judge, and say, Your Honor, we have boom, boom, boom. These are the facts that we know today. Okay, and then the judge looks at it and says, okay, I see reasonable suspicion here and probable cause to search that residence. What are you looking for? And then they list a whole bunch of things that they potentially could be looking for. And the judge says, okay, go try to find those types of evidentiary items to either prove or disprove. Okay, who could be involved in this? Okay, meaning the first search could be, let's eliminate the family. Okay, let's get them out of the picture. Okay, because that's going back to the victim continuum. Low risk victim, there's all of that, right? So the search warrant, they go in, they do all the things that they do. Okay, now we get to a second search warrant. That could be based off of the lab work in the first search warrant. Okay, so now the lab comes back and says, hey, Mr. Investigator, by the way, okay, boom, 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 and boom, whatever that is, okay, you need to go back and see if there's, something that correlates to this. Okay, either eliminate it or prove it as evidence, hard evidence, okay, forensic evidence. Now you've got to go to a judge again and say, Your Honor, we're back. And the judge's responsibility is to say, why? Okay, well, they laid out that again, that a second affidavit of probable cause, and a judge agreed. He says, yeah, I see it too. Here you go back. Okay, but what's interesting, they not only went that way, okay, they went this way. They got permission to do this. Let's go cut up somebody else's property, not Barry's house. Let's go cut this guy's garage up, okay, and bring the FBI evidence response team in to process the scene. Okay, Well, we just saw what those guys are capable of in the Daybell case that was just on yesterday. Okay. This is the same group, different division, same group. Okay. So we're starting to see how some of that evidence is playing out in the other caper. But these guys now are sitting there and they're using some serious technology to now all of a sudden cut up the slab here. Okay. We don't know why. We can speculate all day long, but a judge probably signed off on it. And that's why this is now potentially pushing towards more forensics. Did that make sense? Did that help?
No, yeah, that helped a lot. I do have another question in regards to like a possible abduction. Is it typical that, you know, if a family, one of their family members is taken or is missing, is it typical that the family would stay near where the possible abduction site was, like her home or where the bike was found nearby? Is that typical in abduction cases? Because I would be terrified if I was that daughter.
Yeah. No, there's no question. There's no question that family would be terrified. And let me just slip in something here. Jackie Montoya, thanks so much for you being with us and for that really kind contribution. We really appreciate that. And also Cowgirl Up. Awesome. Thank you. We love having new subs and we love having folks on. And I think you're going to have a blast here. You're going to see a different kind of dialogue with people. There's a little higher level, a little higher quality of dialogue going on. What Lauren's asking about, we're talking about the Suzanne Morphew case, the fact that if this woman was abducted, is it normal that people would stay in the same area? You know, on a missing child, that's the first thing we want them to do is stay where the last place was, and for people to stop and stay. If you have a family member, you want them to know that home is still the stable center point. And you certainly would do things to secure your safety if you had children that were unsure of being safe at home. But you're going to want to have that same location be a place, because that's a place of familiarity to the victim in this particular case. We want her to know that things are the same. And that's really keeps taking us back, and kind of the part that keeps bugging us is you also want to let her know in the media almost ad nauseum that you are thinking about them and you are looking for them and you haven't given up. And we've heard nothing but silence, which is troubling. And again, I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. I'm just saying that's really troubling to me. I don't know. What other questions do you have for us, Lauren?
I know that after a month since her disappearance, law enforcement went out in the community and they handed out flyers that had Suzanne's photo on it, obviously the tip line. And also on that, there was no mention of a reward, which, in the only video plea of Barry Morphew, he talked a lot about the reward and said that it's over $200,000, which is that's a lot of money. And on those flyers that the law enforcement handed out a month after her disappearance, there was no mention of the reward at all, which I would think they would put that on there because, obviously there's a lot of greedy people in this world and they would want to, get that reward to, give any information that they had or saw or any tips to law enforcement. Why is it that, law enforcement didn't put that on their flyers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Have you asked that question?
Yes, and they just said it's part of the investigation. They've been so tight-lipped. Law enforcement I've never experienced a case like this where law enforcement just gives you the answer of it's part of the investigation every single time I ask a question. So they haven't told me why.
It certainly could be part of the behaviors that are being examined. From an investigative standpoint, Chris, would you have ever turned down an option like that in hopes that it might lead a clue to you?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, $200,000. it's controlled by the family. So that is
Yeah.
an interesting move.
Yeah, think about that, Lauren. Just last week when we were talking, we used the contrast of Lauren Brittany DeMolo in Florida and that much smaller reward level, but it's being announced everywhere. The reward levels being announced on Delphi and others. So it's interesting. And I want to call out Mo Marshall, who's joined up with us and joined the Profiling Evil family. It's really great. You're going to enjoy this. But back to you, Lauren.
Yeah, and go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
Lauren.
go, Chris. Go.
No, I just think it was fascinating that even you, as an experienced journalist, are saying, I've never experienced that. They're so tight-lipped here. Okay. So that's an interesting observation that you make. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what were you going to ask? What was your other question? I'm sorry. I apologize.
I mean, I was just going to say that I circled back and spoke with the fire chief. Barry's a volunteer firefighter. I was just asking him, has Barry come back and has he gone out on calls and, what's he like? Chief Robert Bertram, he told me that, yes, Barry has come back and he is doing training once a week with our volunteer firefighters. And, he said that Barry's having a rough time, and that he has not been called out to a fire yet. So, and then I also know, because I spoke with the gym members, the gym manager to the gym that Barry and Suzanne went to, and he's kind of going back to working out as well. My question, I think it is on a lot of people's minds, is, did Suzanne ever go on a bike ride? Because no one that I've talked to, no one has publicly said, oh, yes, I have seen her. I saw her that morning on a bike ride. That has not come out at all. And so I think that's a major question that probably law enforcement is asking too, is, was there ever a bike ride that morning?
Just what you're saying. Go ahead, Mike. I know where you're going.
No, I'm going to let you take it, but I just love talking to you, Laura, because you have such a good gut instinct. And the questions are the same ones that we sit at midnight on the phone chatting about back and forth. So yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So let me get this right. What you just presented to us. Okay. Mm-hmm. A man has offered a $200,000 reward for the whereabouts, information, tips of where his beloved wife is.
Yes.
Okay. They've done all kinds of searches, right? Mm-hmm. And it's today's his anniversary.
Yep.
Okay. But in the interim, I might as well go work out at the gym. I might as well get some fire training in. Okay. And, just kind of, keep it moving, right? Okay. You know what? People grieve in different ways. Okay. But you know what would be really great to see, okay, is this idea, okay, that if you have enough time to do that, why not organize the community around the searching for your wife? If you look at any missing persons case that is a high profile, 2 words, Scott Peterson. Okay. That guy even went on all kinds of TV shows. He was out there saying, look, I'm looking for my wife. Okay. Now, that guy's a total different story, but his demise was he did it. Okay. We're not saying Barry did it. Okay. We're just saying that the guy who did it did what Barry's not doing. Okay. So the question is, why? You have enough time to go to the gym. You have enough time to go looking for fire training. Okay. But, to me as an investigator, I would be looking at, and by the way, this is exactly how I would be thinking at my office if I was a case agent on this. I would watch this video and listen to you and just hear you say, yeah, he's going to the gym and he's going there. Okay. Well, personally, the first thing I would say is let's surveil this guy. Let's put some surveillance up on this guy. Mm-hmm. Because that is, that's a red flag. Mike, I mean, am I going into left field here on this?
You're absolutely right. I mean, those are the behavioral questions that you keep going back to that help us as we sit. Each one of these is a brushstroke, and we're seeing this painting slowly come together. And boy, I hope that this woman is brought home and found and recovered, or whatever the option might be, so that family can find some closure in it. But these questions keep forcing us to just dig deeper and know that there's much more to this story that's coming out. I don't know, Lauren, are there some other questions that you've had that maybe we could answer? And what's your plan as the week goes forward? What can you share with us? Because you're probably going to release some cool stuff this week.
Well, I mean, there was something that in a video that Barry had mentioned, or Barry had said to Tyson Draper, that kind of bothered me as a journalist. And what I'm trying to do is just help him find his wife. And he had said, oh, we're having a lot of media bother. He used the word bother us. And I'm not trying to bother him. I'm trying to help him find his wife. And for the first couple of weeks when investigators had the home, that we could not, as the media or, as local reporters, we could not go on County Road 225, which is very far from his property. So we were stopped at Highway 50 and County Road 225 for weeks. And for him to say that we bothered him, I'm just like, we're trying to help, you find your wife and to find the mother of your children. And then for him to also say in his plea, like, I'll do anything to get you back. Well, I think, as a journalist, a lot of families come to talk to the media to get their word out, to get people to realize, hey, we still love Suzanne, we still miss her, and things like that. So that was very curious as far as we're not bothering him. We just want to help. I mean, I do. I want to help. That's why I continue to, ask people about Suzanne and things like that, is because I want to help law enforcement with getting more tips. I want to help Barry and the girls, find their mother and their wife. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is, in the plea, he talked about, the reward is for the safe return, no questions asked of Suzanne. Well, what about, whoever did what they did to Suzanne, justice for Suzanne, as far as if there was a crime committed, bring that person to justice. And why don't, that money go towards making an arrest or, finding that person that possibly took Suzanne. I just think that the reward, the information, the description of the reward needs to be changed as well. I don't, I understand they want her to be returned safely, but, a lot of, like what you guys said, at this point, it's almost 3 months now that she's been missing. Is that possible?
Yeah. Well, sadly, it's possible that she could be missing forever and we never find her. I hope that that's not the case. This is amazing, folks. If you have any tips, please get a hold of the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office and let them know. If you have some ideas that you are interested in, let's put Lauren's contact information up again and send your tips to her. We want to see her break this story, and hopefully she'll just give us a little bit of a nudge before she shares the secret nuggets of what's going on. But Lauren, you're doing great work. We stand behind you. We're so proud of our association with you and the quality of journalism that you are committed to. Chris, I don't know, thoughts?
Just one thought to what you just shared with us, Lauren. On that, also go back to that Jason Draper's video and go about to the 950 or Tyson. I'm sorry. Yeah, his video. And go about to the 9:55 mark. Tell me what you hear. And our viewers, go back to about the 9:55 mark where he's asked a question. Get your name cleared. Listen for the response and tell me what you think. I think I know what I'm hearing, but I'm curious as to what other people would be potentially hearing. And see, have them reach out to you and see where it goes.
Yeah. Thanks. Lauren,
let's get her home.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate having you here. Mimi J2, Mr. Banks, Aaron Hicks, Nat Man. I mean, these are names that are becoming family to us, Lauren. We're seeing people that really are committed to this thing. Chris and I are going to be on live tonight at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 o'clock Eastern. If you're in the Pacific time zone, you do the math. But please join us. We're going to have some discussion on some open things, but I think we're going to announce something pretty cool tonight about a way that you can share information. Aren't we, Chris?
Yes, we are. It's going to be fun.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
You can say two if you'd like.
Yeah.
Anyone that has any tips, please, please, please call the tip line, 719-312-7530. Call the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office. If you think it's small, it might be huge, and it might help investigators solve what happened to Suzanne Morphew. Let's help find Suzanne, and let's bring her home.
Yeah, thank you so much. Folks, thanks for supporting us. Thanks for helping us break the 10,000 barrier. And we're moving on up, and we're looking forward to continuing to grow along with you. Thanks for giving consideration into the membership programs. And we hope that we'll be able to provide you content that just keeps you coming back for more. And thanks for watching out for each other. And especially, can I just say thanks so much for self-moderating and keeping the chats clean and keeping on top of people that decide to yap on some things that are a little off color or a little inappropriate. You guys have been policing it so that we don't have to and that we can focus on content, and we really appreciate it. Our thanks to Circa 3 and Tyler and Casey, and for everybody who's helping us behind the scenes do this. And without question, thanks to one of the most experienced homicide investigators in the United States, Chris McDonough. Thanks for being with us, Chris.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Maybe next week, Lauren?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what I can do.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you tonight.
Good night.